Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to the Bricks in the Wall. I am your host, Juan, aka Truth.in.media. And folks, do we have a show for you today? I've actually been a bit anxious to talk to this person. I immediately gobbled up everything she wrote. Basically, the way this show works is I post stuff on my Instagram and I see the kind of feedback I get, and I sometimes just randomly click to the people that like my stuff or the people commenting or reposting. And I'll just randomly click on something and just randomly go through their page. And sometimes I'll get an intuition and I'm like, oh, this is a cool post, or this is a great insight, or a little tidbit. And so I dig further, and with this guest that we have on today, immediately it was interesting. I went through her page and I immediately was struck by this painting she does, because she does painting. She's an artist and a writer. She looks into the mysterious realms, the kind of stuff we like here. She's into the unknown, symbolism, seeing the unseen, essentially. And that's why I created the show. I want to help people see the things that are in your face, but you can't see for some reason. And similarly, she's been doing the same thing her whole life as a child. And we're going to talk all about that today. So to say, the image I saw, I was listening to music. I was listening to Tool. And I saw her image of something she painted. It's called Schism. Now, the song Schism wasn't on, but it was Tool. And I saw that as a special synchronicity that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, definitely. I need to have this person on and talk to her and see what's going on in her mind. And so we're blessed with her presence today. So welcome to the show, Jackie Krasna. Hi, Jackie. How are you doing?
I am doing good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for putting time aside to be here with us.
Yeah, no problem.
So you were telling me that Krasna is actually a name from where?
It's a Slavic or Czechoslovakian name. I was telling you, my mom is Czechoslovakian, but my original family name was Kramer, but I just did like a lot of artists do, where I changed my name so that it was more unique, and I kind of stuck with my heritage with that.
Right. When I was little, I would have like dreams that I would probably become a famous soccer player or singer, but then I always thought, man, but my name Juan Martinez, it's so boring, so normal. It's like millions of Juans, and I was kind of similarly thinking the same thing. What would I change my name to? But let me ask you this first to start out, because I always find it interesting that people that I choose to have on here, what it was that led them down this path. And so I read your bio, and I know you said it had to do with you learning how to draw a star as a child, and that eventually led you down this path of searching and trying to break down symbols and what they mean. Now, let me ask you, were your parents into any of this weird, strange alternative stuff, or was this something that started with you?
Well, I think I got a little bit of a head start from my parents, because they were what you might call sort of the stereotypical conspiracy theorist types. They were also kind of like mainstream Christians, but at the same time, they weren't really satisfied with the narrative that they were getting from the typical Calvary Chapel type of church. So they were really digging in pretty deep and trying to I remember my dad even at one point kind of trying to interpret some other versions of the Bible. And, they were doing things like prepping for Y2K and all of that. So, and I wasn't allowed really to watch too many movies. So I thank my parents a lot for that. So I didn't get as much brainwashing as a lot of other kids do.
Wow, that's great. That's really good. I could say maybe my parents were similarly like that. My mom would get upset if I watched The Simpsons, but I would kind of sneak around and watch it. And I think
me too.
It's good, but right now at this point in my life, I'm coming to this place where I'm realizing, and I already knew that music, and most of it is kind of brainwashing and kind of get you into this rhythm that they want you to be in, to kind of disassociate. And I keep asking people, let me ask you this also. If you listen to, for example, if somebody loves Led Zeppelin, but they know that they messed around with little girls and they were into all this dark occult stuff, would you still listen to them, or would you abstain yourself from the art?
I think that it's fine to listen to it as long as you've kind of developed an immunity to their messages. So if you become kind of like symbol literate, as we'll probably talk about, and you understand how they're intentionally trying to manipulate through their music, I think then that kind of makes you immune to it. But at the same time, I mean, I personally can't really I can't really enjoy a lot of the music that I used to like, because I see through it.
Right. Yeah, that's how I am. I love Led Zeppelin, and I can see myself loving them less and less. And even now, if one of their songs come on, all I think about is like, man, y'all were diddling little girls. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Y'all are rock stars. Like, what is wrong with y'all? And like, it just bleeds into me enjoying that music, and I can't. And so like now, slowly over the years, most of the music I listen to on Spotify is really just like pensive music. It's just music to think. It has no lyrics. It's just, it leaves it open to interpret it yourself, however you would like to, at how you're feeling at that moment. So that's what I've been transitioning into.
Yeah, same here. I've been listening to a lot of just music without any vocals.
Here, let me give you a recommendation. You should check out this group called Marconi Union. They play this great music. It's like abstract, but it really makes you think. And with one song, I've gone through like many trips in my head, like different thoughts and concepts and ideas. It's fascinating. I love it. Like it's kind of like having a blank sheet where you can start fresh every time.
Well, that's good. I can always use new recommendations of music. My playlists get a little stale sometimes.
Okay, great. I'm glad I could share. Okay, so guys, Jackie is a very interesting person. Like I said, I clicked through her profile, and there was another image that stuck to me, and it's on her Instagram. Y'all should go please check her out. Is Jackie Krasna. I'm going to put it in the show notes. Don't worry. But the last name is spelled Krasna. And in there, she has a picture that she had of herself, and it looks pretty professionally done. It looks like a whole set. If I could describe it to y'all, it's like she's sitting on a desk or a table, and she has a set of tarot cards. Or is that your deck, Jackie?
That's one of my decks. Yeah, that's the Thoth deck that I have, the one that was done by Aleister Crowley.
Oh, cool. Dang, nice. Okay. Aleister Crowley, I definitely want to talk about him. So she has this deck out, and she has incense. It looks like incense, a little fire going, a candle. It looks like you have a little potion glass, and you have a tray there. What's on that tray?
A tray? You know what? Let me look.
It's like you have a little glass potion jar, what looks like, and a little golden receptacle looking like thing. And I don't know if that's a skull or a bone, some white thing.
You know what? Let me look at the image real quick. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the glass bottle, actually, my fiance's sister gave that to me, I think. It was meant to be kind of like a protection, kind of a potion or something. And then the skull was a fox skull that my fiance just had, because he used to work in the Forest Service. I think he just found it.
Oh, that's cool. Forest Service. What kind of job is that?
He was mostly doing owl calls. I don't fully understand it, but he would go out in the woods like in the middle of the night and basically try to kind of track the paths of owls for whatever purposes they had for that.
Oh, that's cool. So he was like studying owls?
Yeah, he knows a lot about wildlife. Like we could be out at a park and see some strange creature, and he'll tell me like exactly what species and all the different classifications of it.
That's awesome. You see, I feel like that's a lost art that humans, we used to be able to discern all the trees and the animals and the sounds, and now we've lost all that. Sure, the environment has changed, but I feel like we should all have some kind of basic survival skills. In schools, you would imagine the greatest country on earth would teach a child how to sustain himself if he had to, but no, it's like they teach you the things that you use the least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'd be definitely good if they could change the curriculum, or rather if parents would just homeschool and teach it to their kids themselves.
Yeah, but I think that's growing. I see it growing exponentially. So many parents are seeing the truth about what's going on, and they're like, man, screw this. I'm taking my kids out of school. This is wrong. And people are taking a stand. And I feel like slowly, I don't know. I want to get your opinion. I always ask this to people. I feel like they really try to implement this fucking Fourth Reich with this COVID thing, but I think it's slipped through their hands. I don't know because if it was of Trump. I don't trust Trump, but I don't know if it was Trump or they thought Hillary was going to win and they were going to be successful. But I feel like they failed in installing this thing, and that people are actually seeing through the veil, and they're like, holy shit, and they're waking up by the droves. And like I said, yeah, they're taking their kids out of school, they're leaving the cities, they're going off the grid, and I feel like things are changing for the better. How do you feel?
I mean, I think that there's some pockets of people who are waking up, and I think that people like you and me, we probably kind of exist in circles where we're seeing people waking up because we're associating with them. But to tell you the truth, when I'm walking around here in Phoenix where I live, I mean, I'm seeing total zombies. I mean, I'm not really seeing people waking up, and yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Well, let me ask you this, because where I'm at in Houston, when I drive around, I've actually been seeing a lot of these what you call pop-up centers, where basically these people will go to a parking lot and set up tents and sell organic food, natural honey, pesticide-free food, all this kind of natural, holistic, alternative route type of food. Do you see any of this where you're at?
Like, sort of like farmers market type of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I guess my thought on it, though, is that, it's great to be trying to live more close to nature and going organic and learning survival skills. But ultimately, I don't see that as the way that we're going to sort of free or enlighten humanity. I think those are like positive steps, maybe in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, we have to get people to understand true morality. I think that's what it comes down to. And I'm not sure that I see that, because people are still going to cast their voting ballots and, try to, basically condoning slavery and government.
Yeah, well, see, I guess that's the thing I wrestle with. I'm optimistic and pessimistic at the same time. I see people changing, but then again, I see, like you, so many people just becoming zombies. So I don't know. Like you said, I think it steps in the right direction. And if people just keep going toward that and raising their consciousness, eventually, I think that could work slowly. But if I could ask you, what do you think, or what have you seen that works quickly to wake others up?
I think that some of these techniques of talking to people, like the Socratic method of just kind of asking questions, and I kind of think sort of taking a step back and not really trying to like debate with people and attack them. I've noticed that works a lot when you just sort of present the data, do your thing, make your content or whatever you're podcasting, and then allow people who are on the verge of waking up to find it. But yeah, I kind of think it can be counterproductive when you like go out of your way to be really aggressive. I see sometimes, because I mean, people are just gonna like tighten even more up with that. Yeah,
you're right. That's one of the best methods I found, is you ask people, what do you think about 9/11? What do you think about TV's like putting bad ideas into people, and just get them to start really thinking on their own. Because like you said, if you come in aggressive, they're like, man, you're crazy. You're exactly what the TV says that conspiracy theorists are, and then you lose them.
Right. And the other thing is, when you are sort of armed with knowledge and you've studied 9/11 inside and out, like the truth is the truth. I mean, people can deny it if they want, but they're not gonna ever really sort of like win an argument. I mean, I think deep down, if you're presenting the facts to them, people will know intuitively that they are hearing the truth, and so they can either choose to reject it or not.
Yeah, and that's another thing too that I ask everyone. What do you think it is about people? You could have maybe a set of twins, and you could present both of them facts about the world and how corrupt it is, and one will be like, oh, that's interesting, I'm going to look into it, and the other one will basically, like Cypher in the Matrix, choose to live in the illusion. What do you think is that causes that difference in humans?
Well, I mean, I don't really tend to put too much weight on things like genetics or anything like that. I mean, I do tend to think that it's more about programming. Like humans are, they come out into the world as blank slates, and then people download something onto their consciousness. So their schools and their parents and all these people in their environment program them. Now, like with the case of two twins, I mean, I think it would depend on the circumstances of how they were raised. I mean, I think it's probably just the individual twins probably had some totally different experience that led them to one of them to maybe reject truth and then the other one to accept it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's up to every single individual. I just sometimes get so frustrated and I just kind of want to yell it off the rooftops. Like you said, you can't do that. You have to come in, just plant the seeds and let them fall where they fall. And hopefully they on themselves eventually start asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it like yelling from the rooftop. I mean, some people do it effectively. Like, we were talking about Mark Passio a while ago before the show. I mean, he's done it the aggressive way, and it does
I love
work
it.
because there's some people like myself who actually do respond really well to aggressiveness. Like some of us just need like a good whooping, like a coach, like a little fire under us. But other people sort of need to be like coddled almost, you know?
Yeah. Right now, as you were saying that, I was imagining different overweight people and maybe having a guy come in and say, all right, y'all need to get off y'all ass and start working out. And some of them might start working out, but the other are just going to be like, nah, dude, why are you being like that? And you'll turn them off. So I always wonder, what is that? I guess people are just different. Some people are just different parts on the spectrum. They need tough love. And some people, like you said, they need to have their hand held.
I kind of think that the ones who are more grown or kind of like further along the path of awakening can handle the intensity a little bit better. But it's like the ones that are really, that they need to be babied, they kind of are babies,
Yeah, it's sad. Well, what I wanted to get into, I actually had a set of notes here that I wanted to get into, Jackie, and put them in a way to kind of help people listen to your life story and how you've progressed and unfolded. And your story is amazing because it, like mine, it starts from childhood. As a child, I had insomnia, and I would lay in bed and just think about the randomness thing and like really dissect it and break it down. And I remember one time I was about 8 years old. It was about this time in Christmas. Today's December 16th. And I was laying in bed and I was just thinking, how the fuck does Santa Claus go around the whole world in one night, in one trip, carry all those toys in that one bag, and do all that in one night? And I was like thinking, I was like, there's no way. And I came to the conclusion that he's either a lie or it's our parents or something. And come to find out, what's the truth? And ever since then, I used that little method to break everything down, because from there was the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, all these mythical type of things they tell children. And then I sort of extrapolated that and brought it into the adult world, because it's that kind of stuff also works in the adult mind. People believe in money, and it works because they believe in it. And all the fucked up things that are in the world are essentially because we've allowed it to happen in some form or another, because we've been lied to. And so ever since then, I was like, I'm not gonna let myself be manipulated or controlled. And I love how in your story, it actually started as a kid learning how to draw. Can you please tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I remember being back in kindergarten and learning how to draw that 5-pointed star like we all do at some point early on. And I was just really kind of enthralled or mesmerized by it. And I didn't know why, but I kept kind of tracing it in my mind and drawing it over and over again. And I was kind of wondering, I'm not sure if I was thinking about this when I was like 5, but it might have been kind of throughout the years. I would see all of these symbols, such as the star, and I would see how it was on everything from my Lisa Frank notebooks that I had, back in the 90s, and on everything from like political campaigns, the
Right.
American flag, the military regalia. And I'm like, why does nobody ask where these symbols come from? I mean, they obviously came from somewhere in the past, and somebody thought they were important enough to put them on, the American flag. So, I mean, I don't think I didn't dig into it until way, way later. And basically what happened was I was very much like you, where I was younger and I saw some discrepancies, to say the least, and things that I was being indoctrinated with in the public school. And eventually I just kind of let my mind get taken over to an extent. And I was taught things like, you can't be an artist. Art isn't really a contribution to society. You have to learn math and science, even though maybe you're not really naturally all that gifted in that area. And so I just kind of forced myself to conform a little bit, to the point where I ended up in my 20s joining the military, which was way in the opposite direction of the right path I should have been on. I spent 6 years at a university learning a very left-brained kind of like scientific disciplines that I just was never really interested in, to be honest. And then I even worked for government for a little while. So I was just like way, way off the center path, or off my true path. And I was kind of neglecting my artistic side. And it wasn't until like pretty recently, like within the past few years, that my mom actually introduced me to, I was saying, Mark Passio's work, What on Earth is Happening podcast. And I like vigorously listened to that for like almost a year straight. And I mean, my worldview totally changed. And it was also around the same time the COVID scam happened. Now, I had read 1984 and A Brave New World back in high school. So I kind of had this seed planted that I knew what propaganda looks like. And so that was fortunate. I remember like sitting in quarantine in like 2020, and I was like on YouTube or something, and I'm seeing these like all these ads, or propaganda rather, that were saying flatten the curve, stay inside, and do your part. And I'm thinking, hold up, like I think I've seen this somewhere before. Like, I'm not that stupid. I wasn't that brainwashed, I guess. So I was just kind of forced to see this brazen propaganda and then start to question it. And then, as I said, I listened to that podcast, started like rigorously doing research, like alternative research. Like I studied like crazy, like I never have before, studying the occult, subversive symbolism, magic, sorcery, all kinds of topics in like the past like 3 years, and kind of got myself back up to speed. And then finally, one day I quit that government job, like kind of on a whim. Like I could not sit in that cubicle any longer, where I was actually working directly with the county sheriff, and like we were flying drones in people's backyards.
Wow.
And yeah, it was horrible. So I finally just said, I'm done with this. This is immoral. I can't support it anymore. And I just got straight to work on making a website, starting to, catch up on my sort of harnessing, getting better at art, and making a portfolio, and then now starting to make media content to try to raise other people's consciousness.
I love it. I love that, man. And you're doing the good work, essentially. A lot of people, well, first I want to say, a lot of people think that conspiracy theorists are dumb or they just believe whatever. But actually, if you talk to them, they actually do a lot of research and they read a lot and they really want to find out what's going on. So get that out of your mind. I mean, sure, a lot of them do get swept up by the whole red pill, black pill movement, and they just watch videos and they don't really understand what's really going on. But the real ones, like you, Jackie, and others that I've talked to, y'all know the shit. Like, y'all know what this really is. And what I want to talk to you about later is Satanism. And it's not really about Satanism. Satanism is a masquerade, and it's hiding some other dark shit that's beneath that. And that's why I wanted to have you on to kind of sort of explain that to people, that there is a spiritual battle going on in this world. But our minds have been tainted and filled with propaganda that it's very hard to discern and tell what is really happening. Okay, so first, let's break down what the word occult means. Can you please tell us what the word occult, because I feel a lot of people are immediately turned off by that word and think that you're talking about demons or Satan or something like that. Can you please just demystify that word for us?
Yes. So occult, first of all, does not mean evil. It doesn't necessarily have to do with things like Ouija boards or anything like that, although those topics can be contained within the occult body of knowledge. But occult, if you break it down etymologically, it just comes from the Latin word occultare, which means to hide or to keep secret. So any knowledge that has been hidden from sight, because it also comes from the word oculus for the eye. So any knowledge that has been hidden deliberately could be considered occult knowledge.
Right.
It's really simple. It's just hidden knowledge.
Yeah, it's not evil per se. There's good occult knowledge out there.
Yeah, and even it's a good thing to study dark occult knowledge, because then you're sort of reading the enemy's playbook, you know?
Yeah,
you got to
exactly.
understand.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I do truth in media, because in media sometimes you'll find these little nuggets and you can use them to present them to others and be like, okay, look at this, pay attention. Why do you think they presented this to you in this way? Think about it, and then you can show them the background or the symbolism or the rhetoric or anything that's happening to kind of deconstruct and show others, whoa, this is like spells. This is like magic right here. They're brainwashing you right now. Okay, so occult, that's what it means basically, guys. It just means hidden. Okay, so can you walk us through now? You said that you grew up in the Christian basically type of household, but after a while you started looking into deconstructing religion through astrology. Can you please walk us through that?
Sure. So let's see. When I was kind of an older teenager, like a lot of us do, we become maybe disenchanted with the religion we were brought up with, because a lot of us, let's face it, we were given kind of like a basic diluted version of the religion. So unfortunately, a lot of people will kind of reject it totally and either become hardcore atheists or even, you know, Satanists. I've seen that happen plenty of times. So actually, a family member of mine got into Satanism, and I got curious about it, and I read the Satanic Bible. And I was kind of surprised because I thought that it sounded sort of reasonable. I wasn't, I was expecting to read about like animals and child sacrifices and demon evocations, and there was nothing in there like that. That's why I think Satanism can be very insidious. It's like a lot of these atheist types who just simply want a little bit of extra ritual in their lives, or they like the trappings of these dark religions. They'll get into it, but then what they don't realize is that the people working at the higher levels of these satanic orders are actually trying to propagate certain ideologies through it to the masses. And what they're propagating are egotism, moral relativism, social Darwinism, eugenics, and just overall a kind of just materialism, like propping up the material world above the spiritual world.
Right. Okay, I guess let me intervene right here really quick. I too, whenever I didn't get into Satanism, but I started looking about what it was about because it was on a podcast, and the guy actually sounded pretty reasonably, like you said. The stuff that we're presenting was like, oh, okay, that actually sounds right. And so to share with y'all, here are the main tenets of Satanism, and they sound actually pretty good. Like, oh, that sounds cool. I would like to be like that. But at the end of the day, like you said, Jackie, it does go back to egoism and all these 4 tenets that you said that are basically behind all or any propaganda trying to turn you away from becoming a more conscious being. And so here are I'll just read a couple, but y'all can look them up later. The 7 tenets of Satanism. The first one, it says, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. That sounds pretty reasonable to me. The next one, the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, we should take out all the bad politicians, right? And another one is, one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Yeah, let me do what I want to do with my own body. If I want to consume drugs, let me do it. Why is the state intervening? But then I guess you go down, and there was one that said, maybe you can help me out, Jackie. There was one that if somebody does something to you, you have the right to go all out on them and maybe even hurt them.
Oh yeah, it's very much about being vengeful. If they call it an Anton LaVey's version of Satanism anyway, he refers to certain manipulative people as being psychic vampires, and if anybody is to sort of get in your way or annoy you, then you should just like brutally go after them. I mean, I think if somebody violates your human rights, then you have every right to, put that down with as much force necessary. But yet they almost make it sound like in the Satanic Bible, as though if somebody just kind of like mildly annoys you, that you have the right to, really harm them or screw up their lives.
Right.
Which, obviously I don't think that's right.
No, yeah, one knows in himself. I mean, your soul inside tells you that that's wrong, but that's why they make this type of propaganda, and they sprinkle it with these seemingly nice sounding things to kind of like pull you into it. And once you're into it, I mean, they pull the veil back and it's all like dark stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it's so insidious in our entire society because a lot of people look at Satanism as this quaint religion, like something teenagers practice, or just a couple of weirdos. But, most of the real Satanists in the world don't even really realize that they're Satanists.
Right.
They're actually following these tenets without knowing it, because you see it like in scientific atheism a lot. They're trying to teach people about social Darwinism and moral relativism. Like I used to listen to this guy, Sam Harris, for example, like him and Richard Dawkins and all these other like atheist celebrities. And they are like hardcore pushing this stuff, but it sounds really pretty. Like it's coming from these eloquent sounding men wearing suits and ties. And, they're not like sacrificing goats in the woods or anything. So it seems attractive to people.
Right. And I love how you wrote in that one article, The Real Meaning of Satanism. Please, guys, y'all go check out JackieKrasna.com. It's a great website, by the way, Jackie. It's beautiful. Like, did you make it yourself?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I made it with WordPress, but I was taking a technology seminar. I'm probably going to migrate it over to another CMS, but
it looks nice.
It's pretty good so far.
Yeah, I love it. It's really pretty, and really all the fonts and everything. Yeah, hyperlinks and everything.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Okay, and so on that article you wrote, The Real Meaning of Satanism, I love how you broke it down that really the 4 main tenets are, like you stated earlier, egotism, which is the service to self, like you above others, step on others if you want to rise above. Number two, moral relativism. You get to choose what's right or wrong. It's up to you, basically. There's no objective moral law. Number three, social Darwinism. It's that the most dominant people should rise to the top, like CEOs, which the majority are psychopaths or sociopaths.
Yeah.
Number four, eugenics and epigenetics. That, again, the masters and the elites should have the right to choose or to call the masses or to do whatever they want with them. And if you really look at them, though, Jackie, all of these tenets are in most of modern people. Like, they believe this, especially with the whole movement of the people who promote abortion and gender transitioning kids into changing their gender. Like, all these things fit. It's about themselves. They know what's right or wrong. I get to pick, and I'm the elite, and I get to have a divine right over my own body and even their kids. And it's so sad, and it's crazy. Like you said, Satanism is right now out in the open, and people don't acknowledge it. It's like you said, sometimes it's depressing, and I get pessimistic. But then I'm like, oh, but we have people like us, making podcasts, making art like you do, trying to wake others up. And I see like this is just a 1,000-year-old struggle that we've had, and it's gone out throughout all history. They have the elites who are just trying to puppet the masses and control them because they feel they're righteous, that they have the moral right to dictate what happens. And so
I think a big part of the problem is the occulting of knowledge. I mean, like the people holding on to knowledge back in the day, like the Hermetic knowledge. They thought that it was a good idea not to throw pearls before swine. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just the most messed up thinking, because when you have this, you think you're in this elite group, that you have all this knowledge. What are you doing but maybe making your circumstances in life better through the knowledge, instead of passing it on to the world so we can remove all of this Satanism that we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. It really is just about occulting knowledge. They keep certain knowledge to themselves, which they use to gratify or exalt themselves. And they keep us out in the dark, just kind of struggling and fighting to make it. And that really is what it is. They occult certain facts and knowledge. And like now you can see it, especially with all this censorship and trying to call fake news to the truth. Like, I feel it's getting away from them, and they're either going to have to make the internet to where you have to say who you are, have some sort of internet ID, or they're going to have to wipe it all off, because it's getting to a point where I love TikTok, even though it's corruptive for the kids. I love that there's a lot of people on there who are spreading this spiritual side of things. I call it conspiracy fact. It's growing exponentially, but so either they're going to have to shut it down or change it to where people really start going, oh, okay, look, you see what they're doing, and take it up a notch and make it harder for us to spread this information.
Yeah, I mean, they could hardcore censor, but I mean, they kind of already do that. I mean, and I don't see how they could just take down the internet. I mean, you'd have to pretty much like destroy the whole world to do that.
Yeah. There will always be servers out somewhere. But let's get back on track. So you said your friend was kind of not trying to get you into Satanism, but kind of showed you what it was about, and you looked into it. And then what happened from there?
So I just kind of put it away out of my mind. I thought, all right, whatever, to each their own, I guess. And I guess over the years, I gradually would, like, certain seeds started getting planted. Like, I remember I randomly found, I don't know if you know who Eckhart Tolle is, but he's like a little bit of a new ager, but he teaches some good things, I think, about consciousness and being present. And I found this book, and I thought it was like a synchronicity, like I was meant to find it, because it was like when I had never heard anybody even talk about being like, living in the present moment. Like nobody teaches that. So that kind of maybe was a seed that got planted. But like I said, throughout most of my 20s, I was like asleep. I was like partying and or being in the military, right? Just not on a good path. Now, when I was in the military, though, it was such a it was so like destructive to the soul. That's the only way I can put it. It was such a hostile environment, totally devoid of any sort of first of all, there was no art. There was no like compassion between amongst any of the, the airmen that I was with. And I think that my, not to sound like melodramatic, but I really think that my soul was like sort of dying, and I started basically becoming like mentally ill, where my memory was like shot. Like I couldn't like even really drive a car very well. Like I was losing things. That just it wasn't good. And it got to the point, and I really think that was sort of like my intuition telling me this is dead wrong. You need to get out of here and get back on your true path you need to be on. So I got out of there like really early, and that was like the most merciful outcome that could have happened, where they just kind of let me go. And then, I was like healing from that trauma for the next several years, where I was like still dealing with all the heavy drinking that everybody does in the military, and finally started to overcome that. And then like I said, I was in the university for like 6 years, and I was kind of noticing just this agenda that was being pushed by the professors, where you'd be in an art class and they're not even talking about the art. They're just talking about everything they can get offended by. And it was just absolute nonsense. By the time I graduated, I heard that they were, I don't know if this actually happened, but I heard they were planning on putting little cameras flying around the school to basically rat out students who were saying something politically incorrect, or
Wow.
some kind of like racial sexist slur or something. And I was like, wow. Again, like it was kind of like I had to wake up by seeing examples of just outright blatant nonsense and tyranny, So then let's see.
Let me ask you this. What were you
Graduated.
studying, Jackie? And what year was this around? Because I was going to college, but I stepped out because I was paying for it. I had to work for it, and it was just really tiring. And I just ended up working a blue-collar job, making good money at a machine shop. But I always heard this about, like, colleges talking about getting offended, and I could never believe that this stuff was actually happening in schools. What were you studying, and around what years was this happening that you saw this?
Okay, so I was studying something called geographic information systems, which is kind of like a branch of, maybe you could think of it as like a branch of computer science in a way, but it's basically like making maps, working with relational databases, and studying a lot of geography and a lot of sciences. I was also studying environmental science and atmospheric science too.
Wow.
And so I think, and by the way, the year it was between 2014 to like 2019, 20, around that period of time. And so I think that was kind of like the height of like all the Me Too movement, and a lot of the cancel culture, and like the forced multiculturalism was happening. So the thing that I observed was, because I was studying more of the sciences, I didn't really get the programming too bad. I think that when you're studying the liberal arts, and social science, that those are the ones who are getting hit hard. But I witnessed it even when I was in like my English classes. What I noticed was that the students themselves were not like outraged all the time. Like the students were just like normal kids trying to get their grades and get by. But it was really the professors that I noticed were like going out of their way to talk about these controversial topics, and like try to tell people to be offended about all this, microaggressions and all of that.
Well, let me ask you this, Jackie. Sorry for interject. What do you think this is? Do you think this is a concerted effort, or do you think because Joe Rogan has this theory that these professors, essentially what they are is kids who go to school, grow up in school, and never essentially leave. They just stay in school. So they become, I guess, coddled, or they don't experience the real world, so any little thing really hurts them and affects them? Or do you think, I don't know, have you looked into Yuri Bezmenov, that Russian guy who was explaining how you subvert a country and you do it by indoctrinating the youth essentially to get them to accept all these Marxist ideals? So do you think, who do you think is behind it? Do you think it's just a cause of professors growing up within academia and never experiencing the real world? Or do you think there's actually some type of top-down agenda happening?
I mean, there's probably a little bit of both, or maybe a lot of both going on, but I do think that it's kind of like the slow march to, you know, getting socialism and then eventually communism. I do think that there's a concerted effort. Yeah, I mean, if you know about how some of these, like we were talking about a lot about Satanism, but if you know how the structure of that works, I mean, these people are not, like I keep saying, they're not just like the teenagers in the woods. They can actually be these professionals that look really spiffy, that are working in the schools. I mean, they'll actually do rituals to try to get certain legislation passed, or to say, hey, we're going to make it so we put this ideology in the curriculum. I mean, I do think that that's going on. It seems obvious to me because, like I said, the students never seemed like they were thinking this way, like with all of the being offended and outraged all the time. And I saw a lot of the faculty doing it. And then I had a really great, he was an awesome professor who was teaching atmospheric science. And I remember he was teaching about how there's so much sensationalism going on with climate change. And, he was just teaching us like a basic, this idea of like looking back into history at all of the graphs, all of the data. And he actually got fired for that. So, yeah.
Of course. Man, why is that, man? See, right now I'm having the optimistic view. Like, why is there's like, you can see it now. They're firing honest, good people who are actually trying to help others out, and they're promoting like people. Like, I don't know. Have you seen the cabinet of Biden? I think the Department of Energy guy was like a transgender guy. He just got caught stealing luggage from airports.
Yeah.
And then
what was his name? Swinton or something?
Yeah, I forget. But and then also his Secretary of Health, another transgender guy. Like, why they're promoting the mentally ill people to the top, and they're firing. I think they just erased Ben Carson's name from a school, a surgeon, a really good surgeon. They erased his name because he had ties with Trump. Like, what are y'all doing, man? Y'all just, sometimes it just pisses me off.
I mean, interesting little story about that kind of on that topic is, so I moved all around the country like my whole life. I lived in a lot of different places. And by the time I was like a teenager in high school, we settled down in the city kind of outside of Philadelphia called Allentown. And what my mom and my sisters and I noticed right away, we were kind of stunned, was that this was suddenly like everybody was like transgender, LGBT, nothing wrong necessarily with any of these like alternative lifestyles, but we thought it was like, what is going on here? That like, we've been all over the country, never seen this before. And in this town, like everybody and their mother was in some way part of this LGBTQ type of lifestyle. Now, all these years later, when I listened to that What on Earth is Happening podcast with Mark Passio, who was a former priest in the religion of Satanism, he spoke out about how the city right next to Allentown, called Whitehall, Pennsylvania, they actually had this agenda. They were sort of like in charge of the branch trying to push transgenderism and eventually transhumanism. And so when I heard about that, I knew deep down, oh, okay, what I was seeing there was deliberate. Like that was no accident, because that doesn't occur in nature.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's sick. And I love Mark Passio. Y'all guys, please go check out Mark Passio. 2 S's, Passio. Man, he was a wealth of information. He has this, I think he calls it the ARC, which is a hard drive of basically videos, articles, the gold, literally the gold. You can use this to wake others up. Yeah. And I actually modeled something of mine after him. For years, I've been collecting videos, and I put a playlist on YouTube. I'll share it with you. And I feel it's a playlist that helps normies wake up. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, Mark Passio was the first guy that I heard who was talking about how this LGBTQ movement is going to open up the path toward pedophilia, incest, bestiality, all these sick things that in the past were mainstream. And like it says in the Bible, that in the end days, it shall be like in the days of Noah, where all this weird stuff, genetic splicing, sexual immorality comes out to the open. And now you see, I remember 5 years ago, someone was mentioning something about LGBTQ, and I just mentioned, y'all guys better watch out. This LGBTQ stuff is going to lead to pedophiles. And I think they banned my account. They put a couple strikes on my account after that. And come to find out, this is what's happening. This LGBTQ man, and tied in with the whole Balenciaga thing, they're literally talking about child pedophilia and all of this sick stuff, guys. And Mark Passio has been warning y'all for years, and people have been yelling off the rooftop, but it's just like, what will it take to really get people angry enough to do something about any of this?
Yeah, it's just like it'll be a news story for a while, and people will get all up in arms maybe a little bit, but then they just forget about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, well, again, we're getting off track, and I love it. I'm going to have you on again. We're almost getting to the end, but I could talk to you for hours, Jackie.
Oh, so, thank you.
You mentioned, okay, so you were through the military, you had to leave, your soul was dying. You slowly started healing yourself through the help of Mark Passio and just doing your own research. You mentioned you went through a couple dark night of the souls. I've heard this term, but I'm not sure exactly what it means. And reading through your bio, does this have anything to do with solipsism also?
I mean, I think I might have fell for solipsism a little bit.
Can you explain first what that is?
It's basically the idea that truth cannot be known, that I mean, everything in reality is so subjective and based on your individual perception. It's actually the idea that you are the only individual who is certain to exist. So that if that's the case, you can't truly know anything. Mm-hmm. And I think because knowledge is so occulted, that when I was growing up, and I just didn't know what to believe. It's like you hear so many contrasting, conflicting ideas and philosophies from everybody. And there's so much noise that eventually, like, I just kind of thought, I give up. Like, maybe I'm the only person who even exists, and I can't really know anything. So yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that way for a little bit. I went down like kind of a lot of different paths. Like I was saying, I kind of got into the scientific materialistic type of thinking for a little bit, and I explored that. I think it was right after that. It was sort of when I graduated college that I really started waking up. And by the way, the dark night of the soul, that was back what I was saying about the military. I would say that was the big dark night of the soul. And what that is it's sort of like tends to be a little bit of an occult term. It just means that everybody goes through these really dark, rough periods that kind of like forces an awakening, hopefully. Like that's how you wake up usually, is through the bad times. And, you can have a few of them in your life.
Wow.
So
okay. I get it now. I get it. Yes. I guess, yep. Similarly, like you, I went down dark paths, like on your bio, it said you explored the New Age, Satanism, and likewise, like me, I explored so many spiritual things. I saw so many trinkets and all these theories and ideas that sounded nice, like you said, but at the end of the day, it's just a shroud of mystery and just kind of leading you down an empty path. And I don't know about you, but for me, I did grow up in the Christian household, but like you also, after learning about astrotheology and how a lot of this is maybe just kind of stories wrapped in symbolism to explain deeper truths, I've slowly come back to the idea of Jesus, because to me, the idea of Jesus is the only one that really truly speaks about forgiveness and love. And to me, those are the main things that I feel have the potential to bring humanity back to freedom. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of come full circle in a way where I thought I rejected Christianity, but it's because I didn't really understand the esoteric, deep meaning, the allegories. I didn't get it. I just thought that I was supposed to kind of generally be a nice person, like Jesus. What would Jesus do and all that? But nobody ever really teaches you why. Like, what is true morality? Like, why is something right versus wrong? And yeah, Jesus was teaching that. And I think something people forget about the story, the life of Jesus, was that he, we're kind of like given this sort of new agey picture of him, that he was just this like really nice, kind person. And yeah, that's all great. But he actually displayed anger.
Yeah.
He was like in the churches, like, knocking over their tables, saying, F this,
right?
How are you gonna like do this in the church? And he was standing up to the government at the time, and he ultimately died. He made that sacrifice for, he was accused of sedition, against the government of the time. So he was like this, he wasn't a true anarchist, really.
A real truther, like legit.
Yeah, and we're meant to, model ourselves after him. And unfortunately, most Christians are also taught that, we're supposed to kind of just stand by and wait for him to descend from the clouds, when I think the real meaning of it is of that idea that, well, basically, we're not supposed to just wait to be rescued. We're meant to embody Christ ourselves and be
exactly.
like him.
You hit it right on the nail. And that's my gripe. That's why I feel that the Bible part of it was written the way it is. And some things were inserted to kind of pacify Christians. Like, for example, two of the main gripes that I have against Christianity is turn the other cheek. No, if you come and strike me and my family, I have to destroy you. What are you talking about? And the other one was that pay your taxes to the king. And it's like, no, Jesus would never bend the knee like that. But I feel like that turning the other cheek thing, it's kind of like, that was inserted by Nero, I guess, who created the Bible, to kind of like have Christians stand down. Because like you said, Jesus went to the church and he turned over the tables and he was whipping people, telling them, this is corrupt, this is wrong, get out, this is the house of God.
Yeah, and I think turning the other cheek, you could interpret that to mean not just I'm going to let somebody like beat me up and stand and take it, but I think that it's saying that if somebody's rejecting knowledge, that you just keep giving it to them,
Well, I partly agree with that, but like what you said earlier, sometimes you can't throw the pearls to the swine. And meaning is, if I see someone is not willing to have an open mind, I'm not gonna spend my time to like try to change them. I'll give them maybe a link or something and let them think on their own. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not going to try to force somebody to, I would move on. And basically what I mean is you want to keep being persistent and putting the knowledge out into the world, and let those who are going to accept it, accept it.
Sure. Well, we're getting close to the end. I would like to talk to you maybe a little bit more if you have time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, and I'm definitely going to have you back on. I like the way that I like writers because I had some guy, a comedian, he told me something that I think I'll never forget. He told me that one never truly has a thought until he or she writes it down. And I think that's true because a lot of us will ramble things in our head, but we never really think about what we're thinking about and break it down and write it to where you can explain it to somebody else who is not you. And that's why I love writers like you. Your shit's like legit. You told me you're a perfectionist, and I can see it. Your writing is beautiful, and it captivates me, and like I wanted to keep reading more, and you need to keep writing more. And so what I wanted to get to is you have these 2 articles that I really enjoyed. The one we sort of already spoke about called The Real Meaning of Satanism. Could you kind of tease it a little bit and tell us how it really has to do, you already kind of mentioned it's not really about teenagers in the woods, but can you explain how this ties into natural law and what these people are really doing?
Sure. Okay. So we covered that one of the main tenets of Satanism is moral relativism, and that is the basically the inversion of natural law, where natural law is moral objectivity, or it's something that is morally objective. And I guess just to give a definition of natural law for people who don't know, it's just a set of universal laws that are binding and they can't be changed, and they're not dependent upon the perceptions and the whims of human beings. So natural law has nothing to do with with man's law. It's something that exists in nature, very much the way that we have gravity that can't be changed. That is a physical law, but natural law usually refers to moral law. And so it governs the consequences of behavior for those who have the capacity to understand the difference between right and wrong. So if you think about it, Satanism and everything that's being taught in that religion is the exact inversion, the opposite of natural law.
Uh-huh. And how does this have to do with why are they doing these things? What is the goal of the people that are trying to subvert our mind and get us to believe and to twist everything upside down? Why do they do this, and what is their goal?
Well, I think that those people want to bend natural law, because see, what I've found is that dark occultists that I've known, they understand natural law. They understand that there's such a thing as free will. They try to get other people to not believe in those things so that they can sort of have, you could think of it as they want to have minions to, kind of twist and break natural law for them. So it's like the idea, you could think of this as an example, like a politician who wants to do something like go to war and get resources from another country. And they know that a lot of they're going to basically do a giant death ritual in order to get what they want. Whoa. But they know that they're going to be morally culpable for those actions. So what they do is, in this death ritual, they will employ their minions or henchmen, the soldiers, to support it and to do the actual deeds for them, so that those soldiers then will be the ones who are the most morally culpable. They're going to be the ones that are going to really sort of, pay the karma, if you want to think of it that way, and face the really direct effects, because those are the people that are then taking the direct action of right. Say, shooting somebody, and then
if they don't know, they are culpable.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing that makes me mad the most. We ourselves created all this treachery. They just put the ideas out there, but we ourselves carry out the plans and the acts and allow them to do these things.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to really be consciously aware of it or not. These laws are in effect, whether you know about it, whether you've thought about it, it doesn't really matter. There's always going to be this law of cause and effect at work.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, it doesn't really have to do with demons or Satanism. It really is just about theft of either, like you said, resources, life, freedom, free will, these things that they know, and they twist them and they subvert it to where, like you said, they're morally breaking codes set up in this, I don't know, simulation or realm or whatever, this thing that God created. They're twisting it, and in a way they're doing just corrupt things to anger him and break morality or what is right and just.
Yeah, and I mean, so like I was talking about kind of some of the practical reasons why these dark occultists would want to do something like getting resources. Like we can all understand why some of these psychopaths would just, they're greedy, they want more money. Yeah, okay, got it. But yeah, there is kind of another level to it, I think, where some of them are just, they're just sort of twisted people. They, kind of want to see chaos. And then there's this other aspect to it that's kind of generational. Like some of them are born into these bloodlines, like like the Bushes, like that family, where it's like, George, W, he was like just a total, basically mind control slave puppet doing the bidding of his father and everybody that came before him.
Yeah, I think it's funny how people get angry at the politicians, but that's the low level rung. There's like 5 layers up beyond that of people whose name you don't even know.
Yeah, then that gets into like the Council of 13 and the, even the Committee of 300. I've never really looked too deep into those higher levels of that power structure, but
yeah, it's dark.
I don't think it really matters even.
Yeah. The other article I wanted to ask you about that I really liked, it was perfect. I always thought about doing something like this, but it's titled From the Horse's Mouth. Can you explain to me what this is and how it works? And just because I think this is an awesome idea, because like you said, it literally is from the horse's mouth. Can you tell me what inspired to write this and how you compiled all this?
Sure. I think it just started with some of the research I was doing about the dark occult. And I was looking at the research of people like Michael Tessarion and, Jordan Maxwell and all of these greats. And I would be taking notes, and a lot of times they would say some quote that I would think, wow, like if people just heard this, like all of these conspiracy deniers out there, like even people in my own family that would tell me, like, who are these people that you think are running the show? That's crazy. What would be their motive? And they just don't get it. And I thought, well, it should change their mind if they could just see these people actually themselves have been so brazen and arrogant, and they're saying what they're doing out in the open. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is, like you said, a conspiracy fact. Right. Nobody's making any bones about it, really. So I just started like jotting down some of these quotes. And then eventually I thought, yeah, well, what if I put like all of these quotes in one place where people could just read like one after the other of these like messed up things that, the Rockefellers and all these people are saying that they're actually doing. Then it's like, how can people even deny that? I mean, I'm sure people will find a way to say that, that's still a bunch of wacko conspiracy theory nonsense, but yeah, I'm doing the best that I can to try to get that information out there.
No, yeah, I love it. And that's beautifully put, because I've always, like, that's what I want to do. Like, what's that movie, Clockwork Orange? Have you seen Clockwork Orange?
Oh, yeah.
Guys, maybe y'all haven't seen it. It's a video about this guy who's corrupt, and I guess the states or somebody's trying to fix him and make him a good person. And so the only way they do it at the end is they strap him down to a chair, and they literally have his eyeballs like open. There's something holding his eyes open, and they're making him watch all these videos to kind of make him regret his past bad life and change him into a moral person. And so I've always thought, man, maybe what if I could, it sounds evil, but what if I could do that to people, but show them the actual truth, like all these quotes, which is perfect. Like you could read all these quotes. Here, I'm going to read a couple. And I actually wanted to bring this one up to you earlier when you were talking about the military. But my
Okay.
thought is, if you could strap someone down and just show them all this stuff, they'd have to walk out angry at all the people who are supposedly ruling us and helping us, because they're straight from the horse's mouth. This is what they're telling you. And so here, the one quote from Henry Kissinger that always stuck with me, because I admire the military men because they're here to protect us, and they want to stand for their nation, but they're being used by the military industrial complex. And I think the quote, I just lost it, but it goes something like, military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used in wars. So they're basically using you and telling you to your face that you're stupid and you're an animal, and we're just using you as a little chess piece to implement our plans. But you have so many great quotes here, guys. If you ever want to have an idea to make a meme or something, just come check out all these amazing quotes she has. Check out this one by Sydney Webb, who was the co-founder of the Fabian Society. It says, "To play those millions of minds, to watch them slowly respond to an unseen stimulus, to guide their aspirations without their knowledge, all this, whether in high capacities or in humble, is a big and endless game of chess, ever extraordinary excitement." So they're telling you,
Right.
y'all are just little chess pieces. We're playing y'all. We're playing this 4D level chess, like not even talking about materialism. We're talking about idealism and natural law and things hyperseding reality.
Yeah, there's let's see, there was another quote that kind of stuck out to me, was on mind control. I put it under that section.
Okay, I'm here.
And it was one.
Who was it?
It was one of.
John Swinton?
sorry?
Was it John Swinton, Edward Bernays?
Yes, yeah, it was where he said that he admitted that the people working for the press, the New York Times,
Here,
and all
you
of
want me to
that,
read it?
that they are. Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, it says, "The business of the New York journalist is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn at the feet of Mammon, to sell out his country and his race for his daily bread. We are the tools and vessels for rich men behind the scenes. We are intellectual prostitutes." From the horse's mouth, guys. The editor of the New York Times is telling you we are controlling truth and essentially reality.
Yep.
So I love it, Jackie. I want to have you on again for sure. Maybe we can.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to.
You keep on writing. Your shit's really good, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles. Maybe next time we can talk about the other ones. Am I correct in assuming that your painting Schism came from your studies of left brain, right brain?
Yeah, I was, well, when I was studying the occult, I mean, a huge part of a lot of the occult traditions is teaching people about basically brain health or consciousness. About the duality in nature, the left and the right brain hemisphere, or the conscious and the subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of exploring that, looking into the symbolism of kind of like the left brain hemisphere, which sometimes might be seen as a little bit more masculine. Actually, in some traditions like Kabbalah, they kind of flip the genders differently, but either way, I was exploring that, and I thought, oh, that'd be kind of an interesting painting.
It's awesome, guys. Y'all need to check it out. It's called Schism. So help me understand. You have what it seems like a person, and you can see their brain. And on the left side, you have red. You can see, I think that's Jupiter. And you have a cityscape, it looks like, and a triangle symbol. And on the other side, it's blue, and you have the moon and the single eye with the triangle pointing down and what looks like a beach. What is this? What is this contrast?
Okay, so like I was saying, there's you could think about the duality of the mind sort of being represented by the two genders. That's how they talk about it in like Hermetic philosophy. Like there's two genders in all things. Like you could find a masculine or feminine quality in everything. Mm-hmm. And it's in our minds, where the conscious mind, which is a little bit more external, is more masculine or solar. Now I put Saturn there to show that as kind of like a male deity, and then to represent the subconscious mind or the right brain hemisphere and the limbic system. I painted the moon because, we all know, I mean, the moon is the lunar goddess, is
feminine,
sort of yeah. And so then I put I put the beach next to the feminine because I wanted it to look like something receding, and then, the water element associated with intuition and imagination and all of these other right-brained kind of abilities. And then I put the city on the left brain part to show that the left brain, when imbalanced towards the left brain hemisphere type of thinking, we tend to build squares and boxes and rigid shapes like cities. And then I put the compass on the left side as well, just to show that that side of the brain is largely responsible for being able to understand mathematics and science. And then, of course, I put like the giant triangle. It's meant to be kind of like a phallic symbol. I put it sort of like popping out on the left side, whereas then I put the tiny little chalice symbol, or the upside down triangle, is like looking like a teardrop on the eye on the feminine side, because I was trying to actually show like an imbalanced brain, like the divide, which is why I called it schism.
Oh, okay, I see. I love it. And when you go to do something like this, do you first think out something like this, or do you just start sketching, or what is your process?
Yeah, so I probably shouldn't do it the way I do it. Like it's always recommended that you kind of do a bunch of sketches like over and over, but I actually just go like straight for it. Like I'll like just take a canvas and just have kind of a basic vague idea of something that's kind of like pulling me, and I'll just like go for it and paint. So yeah, I've just never been really into like making a bunch of sketches and like sketching something out on the canvas first. I like to just kind of go for it.
Well, I love it. It's awesome. It's infused with like symbolism, and it's layered. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Jackie, I guess we're nearing the end. I think we didn't even get into it. I wanted to ask you so much about the Black Cube, the cult of Saturn, and what they represent and all that. But how about we have another episode? I want to have a series with you, actually. I want to talk about that, the differences between left brain, right brain, and how imbalancing them toward either side leads to certain problems in people's lives. And yeah, I just love talking to people who are into this stuff, and that's why I created the podcast, to find the others who are on the path and are trying to wake others up as well.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, I'd love to do that. I think you're doing some really good work here. And yeah, it's been really fun. And I could talk about some of these topics like all day. Like, so the Black Cube thing could be like a whole episode, probably.
For sure.
So
yeah, that should go so deep. The symbolism everywhere, how they have black cubes in front of buildings, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we end, I always like to ask the guests to leave us with a piece of information that can help the listener to take with them in their life. But I actually would like to ask you, since you've researched the occult, what is something that you discovered that had like a big impact on you and that you think about often by researching the occult? You still there, Jackie?
Oh, yeah.
What do you have for us? What's something that like really?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking for your listeners. What was the question you were saying? What had a big impact that I learned?
Since you've been doing this research on this occult stuff, what's some piece of information that you found that really impacted you or really had like a lasting effect on you?
Oh, there's so many. I think if I had to pick one, it would be learning about the mystery traditions, like some of these like mystery schools, like the OTO and the Golden Dawn, the ones that are teaching magic, because I had been like, I've had a lot of counselors and just people recommend to me oh, you should meditate. Meditation's so great. And I was just bored to tears with meditation. Like, why am I really sitting here, like staring at a wall, like trying to stop my mind? It didn't make any sense. But when I learned about what these mystery schools were teaching, like this sort of magic ritual, suddenly it became really fascinating and like fun. Like, oh, I'm doing magic rituals. Like, this is really cool. And so then I was able to finally get into that state of trance where you're actually quieting your mind.
Right.
And I didn't discover that until like pretty recently, you know, like getting into my 30s. So that was just like amazing that I was finally able to do things like meditation and these rituals like the middle pillar, where you're just still, you know.
Right. Yeah, man. Same. Likewise. At first, I would roll my eyes when I was meditating. I would be rolling my eyes while meditating. But no, you're right. At some point, once you do get really good at it, you do get to this place where it's. I think I forget what it's called. Maybe it's nirvana. But there's several terms they use that you get to this place where you're like literally at peace. You're one with everything. Sort of like psychedelics, but a natural and deeper thing. It's like everything stops. Is not even your mind. It's just like you're in this place of peace and oneness and calmness. And then when I was doing that, I kind of got into what is it called when you exit your body?
Like an either astral projection.
Yes, astral projection.
Oh, you experienced that?
Yeah, once or twice. Once it was happening, but I don't know if you read, but as you're doing this, as you're exiting your body, your soul in your body starts kind of like to freak out. So you start kind of like trembling. So I experienced that. I felt like I was leaving, but my body was afraid to let me go. So I started trembling and I snapped out of it. And then
that is crazy. I actually have like one of my best friends told me like the same thing where he would like every night he would like leave his body, but then he would like have trouble jumping. He would have to like jump back into his body, and he like was afraid that he wouldn't be able to make it back in.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing similarly. And so I kept trying, I kept pressing forward. And then one time I was trying to fall asleep and I finally achieved it. I like just like, I don't know how to explain it. You kind of like, in a digital form, I guess, you kind of get out your body and get back together. And then I was kind of like floating above myself and I could see myself and I got scared. And instantly I like woke up. So it's hard to sustain it. It takes a lot of practice. But after that, I really don't want to get into that stuff sometimes because, I don't know, have you seen the movie Soul from Disney?
I have not.
Well, it's interesting because I don't want to give it all away, but it's essentially about a guy who doesn't know, but he's permanently in the astral realm. I'll just leave it at that because you should check it out. I think you'd like it. It's so symbolic and deep, and I can see you like extrapolating all these layered things from it. But there was some things in that movie that made me feel, oh man, maybe this stuff I shouldn't be messing with. I shouldn't be going into this realm. I don't know how this map or the territory, what if I end up harming myself or something like that? So I kind of just stopped. But yeah, meditation on its own, when you can really get into it, it does wonders.
Yeah, it sure does.
Well, Jackie, thank you again for joining us. And like I said, we'll do it again. Can you please give us anything you want us to check out, like your Instagram or website?
Yeah, well, my website is just my name. So it's JackieKrasna.com. And I think pretty much every other social media page, I've put my name in it. So you can just search for Jackie Krasna, like my Instagram. I'm on a lot of different platforms. So cool. Yeah, whatever you use, people can search for me.
Well, I'm going to put your links on the show notes. And please, guys, check out her website. She's a really good writer, and she breaks it down to where you can show this to your grandma, and she'll probably be like, you got something there, son. But thank you, Jackie. You're a wealth of knowledge. And keep writing. I want to read some more. And we'll do this again sometime.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was a really cool conversation.
All right, guys. So that was Jackie Krasna. And remember, know thyself, improve thyself, find the others, and then you'll know what to do. Peace. All right, guys. That was my conversation with Jackie Krasna. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Man, she's a wealth of knowledge, huh? I love people like that. People who don't just accept the narrative and actually go and research and go out of their way to look at all this esoteric, seemingly occult knowledge. And remember, occult does not mean evil. It just means hidden. Lost knowledge is occult. It's just hidden, occulted. Ocultar. In Spanish, that means just covered. So it's nothing evil, guys. Yes, it's just knowledge. It's kind of like a gun. A gun is not evil. A gun is just a gun. It's static energy. It takes somebody to use it it depends how they use it and what the intent is. You know, I can use a gun to kill somebody, or I can use a gun to go hunting and feed my family. It's all about intent. And I don't know, I would have discussions with people that say, oh, that's evil, that's satanic. Well, they've tied it with Satanism, and it's all just kind of symbolism to confuse the mind. Because remember, Satan, or the opposer, whatever you want to call them, their deal is lies. That's how they work. Confusion, lies, obfuscation, illusions. It's all to confuse you. And yes, there's some secrets and knowledge there, but when you start adding dogma and religiosity to it, it kind of starts to obfuscate things. Anyways, I'm rambling now. After we recorded this, me and my wife just watched a movie on Netflix called Prisoners. And man, I hate fucking movies like that. What are they called? Just anxiety movie. What is it called? The genre is suspense, I guess, is what you would call it. I hate suspenseful movies because I know what it is. It's the trick. They're priming you. They're filling you full of anticipation and hope, but it really comes at the back end of fear. So they propagate this story, and I guess I'm gonna kind of spoil it, but y'all should go check it out. Well, don't. These movies, if you don't know what they're doing, if you don't know the trick, like the magic trick, it tricks you and it fucking fucks your subconscious mind, and it implants fears and extracts fears. That's a whole nother subject, but when you're watching a movie, and like Jackie was speaking about earlier, once you know the trick, once you know the symbolism, and you know what they're trying to do, it doesn't work. Like exactly like a magic trick. If you know how a magic trick works, it doesn't work on you anymore. And so this movie Prisoners is really all about, so I'm gonna spoil it, this family. I'm gonna try to not spoil it, but you should go check it out if you want, but it's not really good for you. I told my wife, I'm never watching another suspenseful movie with you unless it's on 2x speed, because it just takes too damn long. But either way, here, I'm gonna play an excerpt of the movie that I thought was the epitome of the movie. This is what they wanna, this is the truth that they're telling you, but they hide it through the movie. So check this out, watch. So this is one of the main characters basically telling you why they kidnap kids, and then that's a whole nother subject about all the kids that go missing in the US. Tie that in with the Balenciaga thing, kids, all that shit. Check this out. So this is the reason that she gives for killing and stealing kids. Check this out. It's fucking dark. It's Prisoners on Netflix.
Making children disappear is the war we wage with God. Makes people lose their faith. Turns them into demons like you. Had to slow down since my husband disappeared.
And that's fucking dark shit. So imagine that this old couple just goes around kidnapping kids. But then this is kind of like the elite at the same time telling you why they do this also. They're doing this to extract negative energy from people. They fill people with hope and fear and all this stress through movies and films and all this stuff to extract fear. And I was kind of mentioning this to my wife, and she kind of got it, so I'm kind of slowly red pilling her. But anyways, that's beyond the point. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I asked Jackie what song she would like to listen or put at the end of the show, and she came up with this one. It's called Caravan or Ride. I don't know who's the band. I haven't heard it, so I'm going to listen to it the first time here. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you like this, remember, leave a review on Spotify. You can leave a review somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure where. You can click, put a 5-star, 4-star, put a 1-star if you want. I don't give a shit. just rate it, put a little review, and share the episode if you want. And so this is the song Caravan Ride. I don't know who's the band, but I hope you enjoy it. Know thyself, improve thyself, find the others, and then you'll know what to do. Peace.
Here am I, alone in your sky, with my mind passing by the thoughts in your eye. If I were you and you were me, could you feel how unreal your world seems to be? Oh, please don't mind that I'm here. For who try and find a place in my mind where you know you can go and leave all behind. Left behind that you feel you concealed by a smile colored blind. Oh, please don't mind that I'm here. For who am I when you're near? I'll try and find a place in my mind where you know you can go and leave all behind.
Peace.